Hello everyone and welcome to episode 48 of Desert Tiger. Today we're going to be featuring Foster from Foster and the Pranksters.
Music, athletics, arts, and entertainment. The Desert Tiger Podcast with Colton Geschwader.
That is me, this is the DTP, and you guys, of course, are the listeners, the wonderful listeners, who I love and appreciate so very much, and I am so thankful that you guys are tuning into episode 48 of Desert Tiger. Thank you for hitting that play button. I love you for it so much from the bottom of my heart. Today on the show, we're going to be featuring Foster. Born and raised in New Jersey, rapper Foster founded the group Foster and the Pranksters back in 2016. Foster kind of decided he wanted to add a little bit more of the human element to his sound, as well as battle the idea, that opinion, that rap and hip-hop music isn't actually music itself because it lacks things like guitars and drums and otherwise. So Foster decided he was going to go out, he was going to team up with the likes of Mike the Irate Genius, Steve Padaleski, and Chris Stadler, and together they are Foster and the Pranksters. Influenced by hip-hop heavyweights such as Kanye West and The Roots, as well as rock and roll gods such as The Strokes, Jimi and the Hendrix, and the White Stripes. Foster and the Pranksters combines elements of rap, garage rock, funk, blues, and soul to create a sound that feels familiar and completely original, yet not too familiar so that you begin to expect what's next from the group. Foster and the Pranksters are constantly wanting to keep you on their toes with their ever-changing and evolving sounds and presentation. This is, of course, best represented by the two EPs that they have released in 2018, La Honda and The Acid Test. The result of a 48-hour recording session. That's right, just 48 hours for two EPs. The first 24 hours was completely dedicated towards recording La Honda, which features 6 different tracks. And then they came back in on the Sunday, the very next day, and spent those 24 hours recording the 4 tracks that are found on the Acid Test. All of this extremely impressive, especially even more when you factor in the fact that they actually didn't plan on recording either of these EPs this day. They planned on using both days to record an entirely different EP that they also happen to have in their back pocket and plan on recording in the future. And once again, it's so much more impressive once you actually start to factor in just how different stylistically each of these albums are from each other, especially La Honda from the Acid Test. And of course, I'm going to be giving you guys a little bit of a taste from each of those episodes. First off, I'm going to be giving you a track off of La Honda, and then midway through the interview, I'm going to be giving you a little bit of the taste of Acid Test. It's going to be a great conversation. We're going to be talking about that 48-hour recording session. We're going to be talking about how he got the Pranksters together. We're going to be talking about his hip-hop career and how he's decided to evolve it. And of course, we're going to be diving into so many more various questions and topics. You guys know how we like to do it here at the DTP, so you're either on the bus or you're off the bus. And with that being said, I think it's finally time, you guys, for us to get to this first track from Foster and the Pranksters. Like I told you, this first one is coming in off the first EP that they released this year in 2018, of course, that being La Honda. And sometimes you guys gotta get a little bit of something off your chest. You gotta let people know how you're feeling. Well, maybe this one is for you. This is called The Vent.
Check. Who you know with a flow like this? this is so vicious. A born mystic, roll over for no critics. Culture downshifted, music is so timid. Lot of niggas they told y'all would blow, didn't. Models is outdated, internet saturated. The price paid is real niggas that haven't made it. Y'all scrunch up your face like, why I never heard of him. 6 corporations on media, that's the worst of it. Best case scenario, give it away for free. Get them to cut a check for exclusivity. If you read between the lines, you can see the tides turning. I say it's the truth, y'all say it's just my version. This is the vibe, this is the vibe. I guess I didn't remind, I'm show some respect, it's been on my mind. Ain't enough to say I'm hitting my stride. Fuck that, I climbed the stairway to heaven, now I'm kissing the sky. Lot of rappers still living the lie, claiming it's all for the music. You lucky if I don't spit in your eye. I'm disgusted, past the point of discussion. All the finger pointing, witch hunting, back to the dungeon, cause y'all bugging. I'm a mad scientist, influenced by my environments. Jukeboxes and a few criminals that inspired this. God bless the dead and them niggas locked up. God help the rest of us, look what we got us. God bless the dead and them niggas locked up. God help the rest of us, look what we got us. God help the rest of us, look what we got us. Look, pardon my ego, pardon my tone of disrespect, pardon my confidence, pardon me if I'm unimpressed. But this is just a vent. Yeah, pardon the honesty, it's not politically correct. Pardon the static, pardon me if there's a disconnect. But this is just a vent. Look, bad taste in my mouth like black licorice. Tell them it ain't sweet, that get mistaken for bitterness. I don't compromise or prophesize. I watch the signs of knowledge disguise the blinders in modern times. The system is not designed for nothing but selling lies. Remember the revolution will never be televised. Don't watch the throne, history on your blind side. The pulse of the culture don't coincide with the limelight. Politics is usual, but I promise it's mutual. Whatever your award show's for, it's not musical. Except the Tony, but you don't strike me as a soprano. At least with Tony Soprano, you always know where you stand, though. I feel the propaganda starting to get out of hand, though. They tap dancing, got better chances looking like Sambo. Rappers come and go, believe me, I got some ammo. Skeletons in the closet exposed like Marlon Brando. Bodies behind curtains that keep your eyes on the circus. Misdirected questions that keep your mind on the surface. And you only correct if your answer quite expected. Consequence of programming and standardized testing. Y'all regurgitate it, I reverberate the earthen language. Translate verses from meditation when you learn the basics. Are we channeling higher frequencies? Maybe so. Won't be long now before we kill the radio. Pardon my ego, pardon my tone of disrespect, pardon my confidence, pardon me if I'm unimpressed. But this is just a vent. Look, pardon the honesty, it's not politically correct. Pardon the static, pardon me if there's a disconnect. This is just a vent.
The Desert Tiger Podcast.
All right, we are here with Foster, the Prankster. How's it going today, my dude?
It's good, man. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. Fantastic. Like I was just saying, listening to the new album you guys just dropped. We're going to be talking about that a little bit later. Of course.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So, I like to sort of start things off where the musicians started. So, where was your love for music and hip-hop? Where does that start off, and where along the line did you decide that maybe hip-hop was something that you could get into?
So as far as music is concerned, nobody in my family really plays or, anything like that, but my grandfather was actually he was like an antique collector, so he collected jukeboxes. So when I was growing up, it was like literally like the house was full of just like old jukeboxes with like, Motown records and, everything from like Ray Charles to Elvis, the Beatles, like all of that stuff. So I really grew up on like, a lot of the older music, even though I grew up in the 90s with, the more contemporary stuff that was coming out then, Nirvana and especially all the classic hip hop stuff, Tribe Called Quest and stuff like that. But, my earliest influences in music are, old school stuff, 60s records and stuff like that. I didn't really get into hip hop like heavy until probably like my teenage years when I, started like branching out and finding the music that I really love. When I was younger, my cousin put me on to, like I said, A Tribe Called Quest, Nas, stuff like that because she was older, so she was like a big hip hop head and stuff like that. So I always heard like, you know, I heard like the classic stuff in hip hop growing up, Wu-Tang and things like that. But I latched onto it really. I was just good with words, man. Like, you know, since I was a kid, like I really didn't think about rapping or nothing like that. But I used to write a lot, like write short stories and write poetry, and like literature was like pretty much the only class in school that I ever like really actually did well at, like excelled at. So yeah, writing was just a big deal for me as a kid. And you know, being from a single parent household, you know, I spent a lot of time on myself because my mom was working a lot, and so I think part of it was like an escapist thing of just, you know, writing just to be in my imagination and stuff like that. So when I was about 14, I transitioned to like writing raps a little bit and didn't really take it seriously, but it was like, yo, like I've always been good with words. Like this is something that I feel like I could be good at. And so I wrote for about 2 years, started recording when I was 16, and that was pretty much like the start of it, man. I ended up linking up with an engineer in Brooklyn named Jay who was putting a team of rappers together, and kind of just like spammed them, like would send them all like the recordings that I made on my computer that were terrible. And he started giving me free studio time in you know, on Kings Highway in Brooklyn, New York. And that's pretty much how I, you know, cut my teeth, you know, just going in the studio and learning about production, learning how to put songs together, how to count bars and all that stuff. And I've kind of just been, you know, focused and moving ahead ever since.
Okay, so when you started like writing more so lyrics than poetry, even though they are like one and the same, when you started doing that, were you finding that you were also like, did you start working on your voice at that time as well, like your cadence and your presentation at that time, or did you not really do that until like until you had a few lyrics under your belt?
Yeah, that was definitely something that came later because of the fact that I started like as a writer. It was something that like took a lot for me to find like my voice and my flow. Like I think every rapper starts out like you try to sound like other rappers, like the people that you look up to, right? So like I have phases where like I literally sound, you know, try to sound exactly like Jadakiss or try to sound exactly like Prodigy from Mobb Deep, rest in peace. You know, and guys like that just like really, you know, that was a crucial element to me, like finding like a style. And also like, you know, Jay Hugh, like I said, who was my engineer and kind of like basically became my mentor, would just pretty much like make me freestyle all the time, you know. And that was something that I was like super like, I'm still not like the greatest freestyler like off the top, but it was something that early on he was like, that's how you find your flow. Like that's how you find your style. Like just rap, like stop thinking and just rap, you know? So that was definitely a developmental process. And even like now, like, you know, like you've heard the newer stuff, you know, I try to get outside of my own comfort zone and box as well as far as like the way that I rap. So like on the new EP and even La Honda, there's a little bit of, you know, there's definitely experimentations with flows and certain cadences like you're saying. So, you know, that's like the journey, right? Is like as an artist, you know, we're like drug addicts in a way, and I think that's why so many of great artists become, you know, have addiction issues, is because if you're, in my opinion, a great artist, you're always chasing a sound. You know what I'm saying? You're always, people can react the way that they want, and they'll receive your art in the way that they'll interpret it. But I feel like every artist is like chasing a sound and chasing like something in their head that they feel like they haven't gotten yet. And I think that's what pushes all of us to, you know, all of us in the band to try to make the best stuff possible and never stay in a box and always challenge the audience. You know, like the idea behind putting out these two EPs back to back is to condition people early to like never expect, because you got this sound the last time, that's exactly what you're going to get next time, because we're going to do what we want to do, you know?
Sort of don't allow your fans and your audience to rest on your laurels as opposed to you resting on them, and sort of get them used to the idea that the unexpected is to be expected.
Exactly, right.
Wow, that's pretty deadly. I love
And
that
I mean,
idea.
that's something I get from my own musical influences, like, guys like The Strokes, who are like one of my favorite bands of all time, or Radiohead or Kanye. Those guys were always willing to, The Strokes' first album is a masterpiece to me. And the second album, I think they had gotten a lot of flack for sounding a lot like the first one. But out of their 5 records, they pretty much consistently challenged their audience. And Radiohead did the same. We got, with the acid test, the biggest, feedback that I got personally was somebody told them that it gave them the feeling of the first time they heard Kid A. And so if you're a Radiohead fan, that's like the holy grail, like that's what you want to aspire to, is to challenge the audience in a way that's like shocking. Like, I didn't expect to hear this from you, but I love it, kind of thing.
It's it, as you come in like expecting what you've heard before, but then suddenly you've got those chills down your back because it's just something else entirely.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
And I think that's why I enjoy the 2 albums, like, since I've like started catching on to you, is because it does sort of like give you that chill down your back, where the first album has like a very like broken down sort of chill flow, but it's like the lyrics are very honest and very deep, like at the same time, and very reflective. And then the acid test is like a lot more allowing for creation within like the vocal work, like, and working it in with the instruments. And it's like how
Absolutely.
You guys have progressed even just between those 2 is amazing.
Yeah, thank you, man. I really appreciate that. What's funny is that people haven't been believing me when I say this. When the press release and what got put out for, La Honda was the idea that we recorded the project in one day, which is true. But it was actually a 2-day session. It was a Saturday and a Sunday, and the acid test was recorded on the Sunday. So this was really like the same session that all of these songs are from. And, the acid test songs were things that we had kind of like in the tuck, like, stuff that we had written, put aside, that I kind of went through and was like, I think there's an EP here. Like, I think there's another EP here. And I think that this is like kind of the psychedelic portion of our sound, and we kind of went back in, and Mike, the irate genius, and I, who's our guitarist, we sat down and, we did some of the overdubs and some of the backup things that you hear. And then I went in and added all the background harmonies and all that extra percussion that you hear that really gives it like this, just like groovy vibe. Like, I know like that slang is kind of coming back, but like in the 60s, you kind of hear in the music why the slang was groovy, because it was like everything has this human touch to it, this human element. And that's missing from a lot of the music now, because so many producers are producing, especially hip hop, in the computer, so everything is quantized and on a grid. With this is like, we're shaking the tambourine, like that's, you're hearing like me actually in there doing it. So it gives it this human element, and really brings what I feel really brings the soul back into, the artistry of all of this.
I can completely agree with that, because that's one thing that I feel about a lot of production these days, is it's a little bit too clean cut, and
absolutely
a little bit of the problem with that is it definitely takes away the soul and the feeling of the music, where it's just like, This is a little bit too perfect, where it's just like there is no actual human element to it besides the voice that's coming through it.
Yeah, 100%. And even most of the vocals now in what they would consider urban music is auto-tuned. So it's like Frank Ocean said, computerized auto-tuned vocals or whatever on the I forget what song that was, but it's definitely a different era that we're in. And like I like a lot of I was just playing some Future before you called. Like I like a lot of the the trap stuff and stuff like that, but I think it just becomes overkill when it's like all that you hear, when it's the only sound that is acceptable, and pretty much has changed the standard definition of what people think the hip hop sound even is. Like if you said hip hop in the early 2000s and 90s, they would play you an old New York style beat, like maybe like They Reminisce Over You by Pete Rock or something like that, Pete Rock and CL Smooth. Kids don't even associate that boom bap New York sound with hip hop anymore. They think that's just old, oh, that's old,
Yeah.
Anything without an 808 and trap drums, like that's not hip hop to them anymore. So, I just think that the culture, we're missing some of the culture and the commodification of everything sounding the same. And it's,
I have to agree with that. I love the view on that, man. That's fantastic.
Yeah, thank you, man. I feel like we have a lot of the same perspective, when you're saying some of these things. So, I just feel I have to chime in.
No, I definitely agree. So is that why you decided to put together the entire band? Was that why you went with the band approach as opposed to continuing to go with produced music?
Well, yeah, it was kind of like always what I wanted to do, as far as like, I looked at guys like The Roots, and it got to a certain point where I became like a really good rapper, and not saying this to like big myself up or whatever, but like it got to a point where I was a really good rapper, and I saw the ceiling of where the height of where that artistry takes you. And a lot of people, I would hear people say like, rap's not music, rappers aren't musicians, they're rappers, they're poets, whatever, but it's not music. And, in order to transcend that stigma and kind of break that, that misconception, I just felt like it was important for us to cross over out of the sampling with the drums, the programmed drums over chopped up soul samples and stuff like that. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I love a lot of that stuff, like Griselda Records, West Side Gun, Conway. Those guys make classic sound in hip hop that's hard, and I love it. Mm-hmm. And they still inspire me to do certain things. But for me, I just feel like in order for us to cross over that threshold of being taken seriously as artists, it's important to step up and kind of show that we can navigate that dynamic and change the perception of what hip-hop artistry is. Hip-hop taught me about production. Like, I couldn't do anything that I do now with the band if I wasn't a solo rapper first, like sitting in Pro Tools or, whatever program, and editing my own vocals and doing this and putting sound effects and doing blah, blah, blah. I use all of those skills today that I started out learning just because I was a rapper and I was on my own and I had to learn how to do it myself. So there's definitely something to be said for that. And on the flip side, I know I've met tons of instrumentalists, people that are technically amazing musicians. They can play their instrument incredibly well, but they can't make songs. They can't format songs and they can't produce themselves. And so when you talk about hip hop, you have to add all of those skills and all of those different elements that make us different, that make us different than rock bands and different from everybody else. And I feel like that's something that's really getting lost in translation now.
Yes, definitely. And there is those like few bands that do like use it, but nowadays like it's become a little bit less and less because nobody wants to take the time to actually find the musicians and trying to actually work out the timing with everybody in the creation process. Right. But they don't realize how much is actually like missing when you take that away.
Absolutely. And I mean, not for nothing, like the challenges are intense, man. Like it's tough to manage all of the the scheduling and just even gigging, having everyone having gear that they have to bring and show up with. And of course, as a rapper, it's easier to just walk in a spot and you either have a DJ with you, or if you're completely from the bottom, you'll plug in a MP3 player or plug your phone into the aux and have your beat playing and just rapping. But like you said, it takes away some of that, some of the elements of you creating something in front of people. That's what live music to me is always about, is I want to see you make the song that I heard on the record in front of my face, and that's something that I feel like really can only do if you have a rapport with the musicians. if you've built something, if you've built a sound together, and that's pretty much what we've done. Mike is an incredible guitarist. I'm not a great guitarist, so I went and found who I feel is the best guitarist, and he would say the same thing about me, is feeling like I'm one of the best rappers that's out here. And our bassist is incredible, Steve Podolsky. Chris Stadler is our drummer, who's like our John Bonham, and everybody brings this flavor to the table, and we all kind of understand the different elements that we're pulling from. That we're pulling from soul, and we're pulling from rock and roll, and we're pulling from Motown, and we're pulling from all this different stuff, and we all kind of understand that and work around each other to make things sound balanced and bring those sounds together in a way that's original and not not forced.
So when you decided to go about putting together the band, was there already the idea that you had certain styled musicians that you were trying to find? Were you trying to find people
Definitely.
that were very eclectic off the start? Like, what were you aiming for at the beginning?
Well, I knew that I had to find the guitarist first, because electric guitar is my favorite instrument as far as just emotion. Guys like David Gilmour that can just pull like a feeling out of you and like pretty much make you cry with just an electric guitar, and
Mm-hmm.
so that was, to me, the most important thing, is to find that guitarist who would just like rip my heart out, like just make me feel something in the pit of my stomach. And so I put out an open Craigslist ad. I'm starting an alternative rap band, or garage rap, or whatever I called it at the time. And I'm looking for guitarists, and a bunch of people sent stuff, and I did kind of know what I was looking for, I did know that I needed like a blues-based guitarist, because it was going to have some of the elements of like a Led Zeppelin. So I was kind of looking for that Hendrix, Jimmy Page kind of soul, really. But Mike ended up being way more versatile than that. Like he can write in so many different styles. So that I actually didn't expect. I didn't go into it looking for like, I need someone who can play pop, pop, hard rock, blues rock, psychedelic rock. Like, it wasn't really like that. But I just knew that the person had to have feel, and they had to understand that it wasn't necessarily about the notes that they're playing, but how they were playing it. And that's something that's, if anyone is listening to this that wants to start a band, to me, that's the most important element. Like, you have to have soul, that it's as simple as that. You can be the most, you can shred like crazy, you can sound like Eddie Van Halen, but if you can't make the audience feel something, then it's pretty much worthless, because that's what music is about.
No, exactly. You have to inspire some form of emotion from them, because you can sit there and you can play a blistering solo in front of their face, but unless it does something for them besides being a blistering solo, they're not going to remember it quite as much as if the notes actually hit something within their heart and their mind.
Absolutely. Yep, 100%, man. And so, that to me is the most important. And, there might be a few music nerds in the crowd that are like, oh, did you hear he went to the, pentatonic, and then he switched to the key, and then whatever. But, there might be one or two of those guys in the crowd, but most of the people are just, they want to hear something that makes them feel a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And so, all that stuff kind of goes out the window when you're dealing with just the raw human element of music. And that's, to me, what Mike is so good at, and really what all of the guys are great at.
Mm-hmm. How did Steve end up getting attached to the project?
Steve is actually a super close friend of Mike's younger sister. So he kind of grew up jamming with Mike, and Mike's known him since he was 16 years old, 15, 16. So he was Steve was a guy that, Mike was kind of trying to get in, and he was originally going to kind of do session work for us and be a studio bassist. And then I think what happened was he ended up playing a bunch of the stuff he was working on for some of his friends, and his friends looked at him like, yo, you're crazy, bro. You need to be part of this. This is dope. This is really something. And so, he kind of got on the bus at that point. And Chris, that was another situation that we were looking for drummers forever. We probably went through about 8 to 10 drummers before we came across him. And, you know, after the first, like, maybe 2 times of playing with him, I was like, oh, this is the guy. Like, you know, it was kind of a no-brainer. He's just incredible. Like, the pockets that he finds and the soul that he plays with is, you know, second to none.
Awesome. So, did you guys record the EPs once all the pieces had been put together, or was that like a process like during the recording?
So that's kind of funny because we originally had an EP called Further that was supposed to come out, you know, 2 years ago at this point. But we put out a single called Think Me a Fool, and that song was originally supposed to be on Further. It still is, but, like, you know, the project hasn't actually come out. And we were kind of like bouncing back and forth between recording studios, and, you know, this was before we had found Chris even. So we were working with a bunch of different drummers. And for me, you know, in my producer brain, when I put the producer hat on and I listen to things, like, the most important thing is to get outside of yourself and not get so attached to something that you think that everything that you do is good. And one of the things that was just weighed on me super heavily was, like, it wasn't the sound that we wanted. Like, for when we were working on the material for Further, we just weren't getting it. You know, we weren't getting the feel that I really wanted as a, you know, the garage rock kind of sound of gritty, hard. You know, it wasn't that. And so, you know, much to the distress of the group, you know, I just kept saying, like, nah, we got to start from scratch, bro. Like, this ain't it. And most of the La Honda stuff, honestly, you know, actually all of the stuff, La Honda, the Acid Test, these were all songs that we had kind of in pieces, you know, sitting, or stuff that we would play live, you know, stuff like 20th Century Eclipse that was just, like, really a freestyle. And so when I sat down and I listened to some of the material we had, it was like, yo, instead of worrying about Further and, you know, these a little bit more, like, complicated songs that we're having trouble getting the exact feel for, I think, you know, to get the sound out there and let people know what we're doing and that it's something different, we need to just go in and record things that we're comfortable with, you know, things that, you know, not that we weren't comfortable with the other stuff, but stuff that's less complex, you know, that we can really just, like, go in and record it raw, like, just straight with, you know, no cut, with that feel, with that energy. And if we can get great performances down on record, we can make a couple of great projects, you know, to kind of introduce people to what we're even doing before we jump out there with Further. It was something that we spent years working on, and it doesn't come off the way that we want to. You know, you only get one chance at a first impression. So, you know, the session that we had recorded where all of this stuff came about, it really was kind of supposed to be a Further recording session, because once we had started recording ourselves, you know, we got a bunch of gear to do, like, kind of a DIY recording setup. And once we did that, we really thought, like, okay, Further is going to be out. And I kind of showed up on the day of the recording session and was like, yo, last night I listened to our, you know, a bunch of our stuff, and I think this is one EP with these 6, you know, with these 5 songs, because it was really, you know, there's an interlude on La Honda that wasn't originally on there. And I was like, I think these 5 songs are one EP, and these 5 songs are another EP. And the Acid Test actually ended up getting cut down to 4 songs. But everyone was kind of like, yo, I thought we were recording Further. What's good? I'm like, yo, just trust me. Like, let's just give this a shot and see how it works. And we just banged it out. Like, it was just straight, you know, it was one of those inspired moments of just, like, everybody's on their A game and put their best foot forward. So it's you know, it sounds lazy to say that it's like a fluke, but, like, it kind of was, you know. It was just us going with the feeling and not stressing about all of these external factors, and really just going back to the music and playing off of feel.
When you guys were going in for this 2-day session, was it like, did you plan on knocking out this other album in those 2 days, like you ended up doing with these 2 EPs, or did that just end up happening?
Nah. Yeah, that kind of just ended up happening. We went into it like, we're going to work on Further stuff, like, you know, work on the Further EP, and, like, you know, maybe we'll get three good takes of three good songs down. But once we had started with the La Honda stuff and it was really just flowing like water, the next day, everyone was just completely like tired and drained. And I'm like, I still think we can do this. And so we started working on the acid test stuff. And, I think everyone was so like burnt out, and it was really like kind of like a hangover kind of feeling, just like what the fuck just happened? Like, it was like one of those things where like you're coming down off of a high that you're just like, did we just do that? Like, did we just record like 9 songs in 2 days? And so I went home with all the material and just started, slowly tweaking it and mixing and doing this and adding stuff or whatever. And I think that we came out with 2 projects that everyone is like super proud of now. I know for a fact that I am. I think what we're doing is like super just like self-explanatory. Like you either get it or you don't, and it's unapologetic. It's different. It's unique. It's nobody else is doing it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, without a doubt. I don't really think there is very many people out there doing anything like this right now.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Wow. Okay, so when you guys got into the studio with this other work, did you guys have a lot of work to do on the songs that you ended up recording? Like, how polished were these tracks when you guys had already walked in?
As far as the La Honda stuff, or as far as like both, like
as far as both, because like to have those 9 songs, like if you guys weren't even expecting to record those, like you said that you had them on the back burner, but like were they actually at the point where you guys felt they were ready? Like once you got into the studio, did you find that you were constantly adapting the songs as you were recording them, or how did that process work out?
Not really, because a lot of the La Honda stuff we'd been playing live, like The Vent and 20th Century Eclipse. Those are songs that we had kind of worked into our live set list a little bit. And, like I would say like Live as It Gets, the song that we did with Royce, with the Royce feature, that was probably like the only one that we spent any time like really like arranging in a way, because I didn't have a verse for it yet, and I didn't have a chorus for it. Like we had the musical parts kind of worked out, but there's like a key change in the middle of the verse, like it drops, and then there's a different guitar part comes in. So Mike and Steve kind of worked out that modulation, that transition when we got in, and it was something that Mike had in mind, like he had written it already, but it was kind of like the timing and figuring out how to actually pull off the key change. So they worked on that, and then it kind of just all flowed from there. Like that was really like the one road bump, and it took them maybe like, I would say like maybe 10 minutes to work that part out. Like I went outside and like smoked a bowl, and by the time I came back, it was pretty much like, yo, we got it. So, but as far as like how polished they were, I mean, what you hear on La Honda is like the way it is, bro. Like that was like even Phobia and Natural Mystic, the vocals on those are from Steve's bathroom, like for the bathroom in his basement. Like I recorded those vocals live with the band while they were playing, and the feel just was there. Like I didn't want to touch it once I heard everything together. I was like, okay, this is dope. Like I'm not going to try to re-record these verses and get a better performance, because I feel like that the feeling that I want is in there already. So I cleaned up the chorus on Natural Mystic a little bit, and that was pretty much it. But like what you hear is what it was, bro. It's in my opinion, it came out great.
Yeah, definitely. It's fantastic to hear that you actually went in there and did that. To actually just know that the song already had the vibe that you wanted from it, without having to be like, no, I want to touch this up, or no, let's do this again, or maybe like 3 times to see which one I like more.
Right. Well, we did do multiple takes of pretty much all of the songs.
Yeah.
But as far as like editing, I really didn't have to go in and comp much, like as far as like taking stuff from one take and pasting it over another. Like it really wasn't any of that. Like and that was why I am impressed upon everybody at the beginning, was like, if we can get great sounding performances, you know, the fact that it's a 2-minute song, it really doesn't matter because that's what all of the, you know, SoundCloud and trap rappers are doing now anyway. You know, like the Lil Yachty and these guys like that, you know, they're putting out 2-minute songs on SoundCloud and it's blowing up and getting however many views. So it's really like, yo, I think we can beat these guys at their own game kind of thing. You know, not to like be condescending, but, you know, if this is the wave, if it's like, yo, make a bunch of 2-minute records, like, we can do that, and it's going to be hotter than pretty much anything anyone else is putting out. You know what I'm saying? So that was like the thought process behind that is like, let's just get really good quality and good feel performances in live takes and mix them and put them out.
Yeah, because deep down, when it comes to any of the trap rappers or any of that style, it's you guys are an entirely different breed.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to be taking a small break here. Of course, those of you who have been with the Tiger for a little bit know what's up. Those of you who are brand new, don't worry. We still have a lot of my conversation with Foster the Prankster left to come up. Of course, I'm also going to be playing you a track off of the Acid Test right away, too. Really soon, my favorite track off the Acid Test. But before we get there, of course, I just need to take a moment to go ahead and acknowledge that Desert Tiger is 100% fan supported. Without you guys subscribing to the show, without you guys sharing the episodes on your social media, with your friends, with your family, with people who you feel would enjoy it, without those of you who have actually gone ahead and picked up one of our Desert Tiger t-shirts, some of our merch, and actually helped put gas in my gas tank so I can go to places like Breakout West, Vancouver, Calgary, all over the place and interview musicians, wrestlers, and all of the like. You guys are amazing. I've recently had somebody reach out and tell me that I should start up a Patreon, so I'm actually going to start looking into that right away. That same person actually asked how could they donate to the show in general, so thank you so much for your donation. I ended up accepting it. I'm just very thankful that people believe in the product enough to be willing to reach out and offer things like that. And the appreciation that I have for you guys and everything that you guys have done for Desert Tiger in the last year is just, you guys are amazing. The fact that this show receives tens of thousands of downloads and we've only been up for a year, the fact that we are getting picked up by people who work for SiriusXM and iHeartRadio, and they listen to the show and they're actually picking up on what's going on, and it's crazy, just this huge community that we're starting to build with each other, and a lot of it is because of you guys. Thank you so freaking much. So of course, if you enjoy an episode, please go ahead and share it. If you enjoy the show, please go ahead and subscribe to it. If you want to go ahead and rep one of our shirts, show all your friends and family just how much you love the Tiger. Of course, you can go ahead and hit me up. Like I said, we're going to get a Patreon rolling soon. You guys are fucking amazing, and I love you so much. And I am honestly blessed with the fact that I have such a dedicated following and listener base. And from the bottom of my heart, once again, thank you guys so much. Now, I should probably stop pandering so I can get you guys back to the interview, back to my conversation with Foster, so you guys can get to the real reason you came here. I mean, unless you guys came here just for the patting on the back that I give you every middle of the show. I mean, if that's why you come here, awesome, great. But if that's not why you come here, if you come here for the interview, if you come here for the music, don't worry, we're about to jump right back into it like I told you. I'm about to play you a track off of the Acid Test, this one, of course, being my favorite song off of this album. And of course, later on, you're also going to find out that it's Foster's favorite track off of the Acid Test. This is called Killing Room.
Your questions, the kids are awake, the music nature is tainted, resistance in vain. You losing your patience, you wait for a ride and take you away. Don't wait for the signs, what price will you pay? What hoops are you gonna jump through? When it falls, where you gonna run to? When it's all really said and done, who is it all being said and done to? And why it always gotta be like this? 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 Robbing your wallet and steal from your spirit. Create you a monster and tell you to fear it. Remind you of a word that you already know. Forgotten your mind, not far from your soul. I don't know why you put me here. Everything around me don't feel like I should be here.
I don't know why you put me here. Everything around me don't feel like I should be here.
Walked away from the crash site with the black box. Became a mascot for the have-nots. They commercialize what I verbalize, but the verses shine might cure the blind. When I switch the flow, might turn the tides. You can learn to fly if you be yourself. You ain't gotta try, you don't need no help. The universe is one big casino. The human curse is one big old ego. The music turned me right back to beast mode.
The Desert Tiger Podcast.
For Royce, how long did it take to get his verse back? Because like you said, you didn't really have the verses of the course figured out. When did he get brought in? Like once everything was already polished and then you just had him do his thing, or?
Well, his verse was actually that. The funny thing about that is that I did the original record. The reason that it's released as the Prankster remix is because I did the original record with Royce in like 2009 for a mixtape that I did called The New Generation. But since I, am independent and I paid for his verse out of pocket, it's really a work for hire, right? So I own the masters to that verse.
Oh,
so I still have the masters laying around, and I was like, yo, I think we could do something with this to kind of show, like I was saying, as far as like me trying to start a band and do the stuff I'm doing now, when I first originally kind of embarked on that, a lot of my hip-hop producer buddies and stuff like that, people that I was around told me, oh, that'll never work. Oh, it's, you're going to split your audience because people won't know if you're hip-hop or you're this or whatever. And so for me, it was like, not only would it just be cool to, like, reimagine this verse, but it really shows, like, that the sound as a whole works, that it shows that we can take these elements from these different places and put a guy like Royce on something that you never heard him, you never heard Royce on anything remotely like that record, and make it sound organic. And I think we accomplished that tenfold. So really we built the song around Royce's verse, like pretty much had Chris like come up with the drums, come up with the rhythm and stuff like that. And we kind of wrote around that. So, it was kind of like an experimental writing process because it's kind of different for the band to write around the vocals instead. And then once we had the actual track laid out, like I rapped Royce's verse in the studio with the band just so that we had the format and everything. And then once I got the instrumental and I brought it home, that's when I like ended up writing everything out and, writing the chorus and stuff like that.
Wow, that's actually really cool because it also pays like homage to what you had done prior as a musician and like your younger years.
Yeah, definitely. That was kind of like where I started the line. I think with like this is just a throwback to my younger days, back to open mics when I don't even remember the word, but yeah, it was like it was just like I said, just a way to like reimagine, like you said, pay homage to the fact that I had done that, but it wasn't really like what I wanted to do. So it's kind of like it's like a time capsule in a way, It's like taking something from then, but like doing what I feel like I was always meant to do with it now.
Yeah, definitely. Just completely reimagining it and then like maybe even realizing what you thought the song was supposed to mean to you then. Maybe it means something different now. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%, man.
Okay, so after you spend like an entire day just crushing this out and like getting the entire EP and you wake up the next day and you look at the rest of the crew and you're like, you know what? I think we can do another one. First off, how crazy do they think you are? And B, like, what was the process like for Acid Test? Because the sound on Acid Test is like quite a bit different. So like to walk in the studio the next day and then suddenly already have that different mindset, was it difficult to make that transition?
Well, we left everything set up as far as like the mics and stuff. We left everything set up overnight, and me and Chris actually crashed in Steve's basement, and Mike went home because he lives like right around the corner. Like I said, like they kind of grew up together. So he went home, came back, and everyone was kind of like ready to roll. But like I said, it was still like tired from the night before. We were up till like super late recording, and so initially it was definitely like shaking the rust off a little bit. Like even though we had just been there playing, it was like just exhaustion pretty much. And so I think that kind of like fed into some of the there's like a very like, I'm trying to find a way to word it, like there are like pockets in the Acid Test that I feel like would have been different if we had maybe recorded it when we were a little fresher. It has like a drag to it and like a very like almost like slow motion, but in super speed, like that, it's an oxymoron, but like it just has like a really weird feel. And especially like the Killing Room, which is like the third song, has like a coda at the end with like this really like psychedelic, jazzy, Pink Floyd-y kind of sounding breakdown. And something like that, I don't know if we would have gotten that the first day, just because it has so much weight, it's so heavy, and I think because of the fact that the guys were a little tired, they were playing just super spaced out, in a way, and kind of like going with the feel and going on autopilot. And then once we added all of the percussion and the tambourines and the backup harmonies, once all of that stuff got added, it just made everything even more full and more trippy, really.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. It just sort of kept building upon itself type thing.
Yeah.
Awesome. So how long did it take you guys to knock out those 4 songs, considering you guys were already a little worn out? I think we probably did that in like between 4 and 6 hours. It really didn't take super long at all. I brought the stuff home Sunday night, uploaded everything to my computer and just like started working pretty much right away. And then obviously the La Honda stuff took priority, so I worked on that first, and I kind of left the Acid Test stuff sitting for maybe like a week just to let my ears rest, because it was really like I was pulling like 10-hour days like mixing the La Honda stuff, and so I kind of just need to like let it breathe. And once I went back to it, that's when I brought Mike back, and he came up with all of these like super dope backup guitar overdubs and stuff like that. And then I really could start like refreshing myself, and I was like, okay, I have like a new perspective on this, like I know it needs to be done, and that's when the percussion and harmonies got added, and then I went into overdrive with the mixing and wrapped it up like
2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And really we were like waiting for the artwork was the last thing. That was like down to the last minute. But our guy, his name is, I think at Ghost Mode PDX on Twitter. Was just a dude that I followed that I really loved his style of art. And so when we were working on this, I was like, yo, this is like the only guy I can think of that I really want to do the art for this. And hit him up, and we were kind of waiting for him to get back to us. And once he sent the art, we sent it out for distribution, and that was it. Like, we're not really super interested in the whole rollout campaigns of the old music industry of like promoting something for weeks before you put it out, and you have to build anticipation. And like, I understand the value of that, but at the same time, it's a new era, and especially being an independent, if people don't know you, they really don't care that your project is coming on this exact date of this, I feel like people are much rather, and me as a music consumer, I would much rather open up my phone and see like, oh shit, this band that I like just dropped a fucking EP. Like, I wasn't expecting that. Like, to me, that's way more exciting than, somebody, the project is coming, it's coming. And,
Mm-hmm.
it gets pushed back or whatever. Like, we want to have a finished product and just let you know, bang, like, hey, this is out, go check it out. If you like it, share it, blah, 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 whatever.
Well, and in today's social media age as compared to what PR and A&R was before, it's today's social media age.
Mm-hmm.
People are more likely to react to that song or that EP being out like right now as opposed to it being announced then, because like if they're going to get hyped about it, they're going to get hyped about the fact that like it's actually available.
Absolutely.
As opposed to being like, yo, in 6 months we got you, because like in 6
right,
months,
exactly.
who knows how many other things have jumped in front of their eyes.
Right, and exactly. And that was kind of the trap that we got into with Further was, the Think Me a Fool single came out, and, then we dropped a video for it, and it was kind of like, the EP is coming, but it wasn't finished, so it was kind of like, we had a lot of goodwill built up with the Twitter following that we have, and it was super dope because people were supporting us for almost 2 years off of the one single, off of Think Me a Fool. People were following and, wanted updates on Further and when can we get this. And so it like impressed upon me such a responsibility to like, yo, these people are like really rocking with us and really supporting us, and we have to like give them something, like we have to deliver on what we say we're doing, especially being that we know that it's something different and we know that nobody's doing it. Like, let's be the first to market, let's grab this, lightning in a bottle while we can and show people that we're not just talking shit, show people that we're really, really doing this. Like, it completely independent, all of us have day jobs, all of us do other things, but we all, sacrifice our time and our, personal finances and stuff like that, and make this art just because we love it, bro. Like, that's it, man. And like, not a lot of people are doing that to the level of quality I feel that we're doing it.
Yeah, without a doubt. I don't even know what to say, man.
That's good, man. Being speechless is always good sometimes,
It is sometimes, without a doubt. Being someone who is like, whose music love started in like classic rock and then like sort of in the more modern grunge and rock eras, how much do you find that influence works its way into your vocal work with your hip hop?
I take almost not, well, I won't say almost all. I take a lot of what I do from Julian Casablancas of The Strokes, who, like, to me is like, he's like one of my favorite like rock vocalists ever, just because he has like a super nostalgic kind of feel. The fuzz vocals definitely add to that a little bit. It kind of sounds like old-fashioned radio or something like that. Mm-hmm. But just the melodies that he finds, he does jukebox melodies, but in like a modern kind of feel. And even like with that Daft Punk song that he did, the name of it is slipping me right now, but Instant Crush it's called.
Yes.
Off of the latest Daft Punk album. It's just like, it's so beautifully arranged vocally. And I take so much inspiration for what I do from him when I'm singing, just as far as like finding my melodies and finding the range and stuff like that. A lot of that stuff I take from him. And then, you know, backup harmonies and stuff. Definitely Radiohead I take a lot of inspiration from. But, you know, I love tons of, you know, I could go on all day about rock vocalists or, you know, what do you call this? I'm sorry, another name that was slipping my mind. But yeah, definitely with the melody. And on the acid test, some of the rap verses, I tried to step out into a more of a rock space a little bit, just with the phrasing and kind of dragging out certain words and stuff like that.
Yeah, I definitely get that feel for sure, and maybe that's why Killing Room reaches to me the most, but...
I love Killing Room,
oh,
so
goodness,
I totally feel you on that. Yeah, that's my favorite track off the new one for sure.
It easily has to be my favorite one so far as well.
Yeah.
I am loving it. So, what influences your lyrics, you find? Is it a lot of personal experience? Is it a lot of what you see around you? Where do you get your writing material from?
Both of those, definitely. Both, you know, my own experiences and, you know, what people are going through around me. There's tons of real stories that I could kind of elaborate on in some of the lyrics, both on La Honda and on this one. But really try to, like, I don't want to give, like, too much of the sauce away, but but like abstract hip-hop lyricism is that definitely inspires like a lot of my rapping now. I used to be way more straightforward and kind of tell the whole story, and now I focus on fragmentation a lot, and that was something I really started doing, I think, with like Think Me a Fool. I started thinking about things in like a very Tarantino-esque way of kind of like creating like small moments within a song or within one verse, talking about a whole bunch of different things or talking to a whole bunch of different people, but on one train of thought in a way. So, you know, like something like, I'll try to give you like one example, something like on Hog Farm on the acid test, I say something like, I never called cops, couldn't trust them while I'm from them, catch a beat down looking like someone. That's a hard fact. That's what you call that. Ever got your ass whooped for having the same ball cap? Like, nigga, everybody on a Yankee fitted. So that came from a story where, you know, I'm from Jersey City, and, you know, my man one night, cops ran up on him, beat him down, chipped his tooth, like, you know, really, like, beat his ass, like, for no reason. He was coming back from the store. And then we found out that somebody had ran down the block with a gun, threw it in the bushes, you know, out front of the house. And the cops were like, oh, well, the guy was wearing the same hat. And it was like, bro, this is Jersey. Like, you know how many niggas have Yankee fitteds on, like, on the block? Like, come on, bro. Like, everybody. You can't, like, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, exactly. So it's like you can't run up on somebody and beat their ass just because, oh, he had the same hat as the suspect. And, like, why would the suspect have thrown the gun in the bushes, ran off, and then came back around the block, double back, and go to the store? Like, you know, so it's just, like, it's certain things like that. Like, I put, like, little elements or little things that, just stuff that I've seen that speaks to larger things about the society and the way that we're living. You know, the world that we're living in is crazy, and I just feel like that mindfulness and that kind of message is not part of hip hop anymore. Whereas it used to be our main thing. You know, like that was the thing that made us the new rock and roll. That was what made us that, is because we were willing to say what other people wouldn't say and talk about things that were really going on. And now we're completely removed from that 100%. Like you listen to half of the stuff that's, you know, pushed by the mainstream, and it's absolutely no content, no substance at all. Or like very like narcissistic substance, like, oh, this, you know, my girl problems or my this or my this, you know, just like, you know, or materialistic shallow stuff. There's never anything that really reflects outwardly. Not never anything, but I'm talking about the mainstream. You know, obviously there are certain guys that definitely do stuff like that. But, you know, that's like the biggest thing for me is just truthfulness, you know, trying to be truthful and trying to put as much real life experience as I can in the lyrics.
Yeah, less stroking of the ego is what, like, you'd say is
absolutely
so the mainstream ideal, and actually trying to provoke thought.
Right, 100%.
Hell yeah. I love it. I love it. All right. So you guys just released like 2 albums, but like we've said, you guys planned on recording another one instead. So is that something you guys plan on doing here in 2018, is going in and knocking out the third EP, or are you guys going to sit on it a bit while you guys like figure out exactly what direction you want to take with it, or what are your plans with that?
Well, I mean, we're definitely, Further is definitely still coming out. It's still, we're still excited about it. We have another song that we're probably going to add on to it. So it'll end up being an 8-track project, and probably push as far as time, because like the way that they do the record association, whatever, criteria is like anything over 15 minutes or 25 minutes is an LP. Yeah. It'll probably end up getting pushed into the LP format. Okay. But I mean, we're super excited about it, and we're definitely going to take a lot of the stuff that we learned about producing our sound and getting certain sounds and styles that we want, and we're going to kind of revisit all of the Further songs and really like make them even stronger than they were in the original iteration of it. So it'll be basically like a completely overhauled version of that, original vision.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that, and I can't wait to hear the album when it comes out. I'm sure it'll be a surprise.
Probably. I mean, I don't know how the guys will feel about it. We'll see how, we'll have a team meeting about that and see how we want to approach it, because I know a lot of people have been waiting a while. So this one we might be able to like tease a little bit and build a little more anticipation for. But it was important for us to knock these first 2 out and, like I said, give people something, for supporting us with no music out for so long. That was incredible to me, that one song could have, done, made people feel something that was so powerful that they would keep following an artist who was like, yo, I promise the EP's coming, but it's not out, Uh-huh. So
just keep waiting. Yeah. Just keep waiting.
Yeah. Yeah. Further is definitely coming. 2019 is a definite.
All right, that's fantastic. Do you guys have any more music videos planned for the future?
We've been talking about it. We're trying to figure out kind of like what the best track would be. I know a bunch of people wanted to see an official video for the Live as It Gets joint. I don't think I can afford Royce at this point to be in the video to make a cameo or anything like that. But we're kicking around some ideas and trying to figure out what we could do, like a really cool and creative video for. I don't want to just like put out like a phone video for a lot of stuff just to have something out. A lot of people are like, oh, you could shoot videos on your iPhone now. It's like, yeah, but you still need a great editor and great production and a good space. There's a lot of other things that go into it. So we're taking our time as far as visuals are concerned. But the acid test visuals that the video that we put out with that has definitely been a lot of people have been feeling that. So
awesome. Yeah, no, the freaking cover of the album looks fantastic. I love it. I
bro.
Have to go check it. I might have to go give it a follow because that is really
hell yeah,
deep.
Bro. Yeah, shout out at Ghost Mode PDX, bro. Yeah, that dude. He killed it, man, for real.
Yeah, man. Just like the part of it is like, man, that is so sick. Maybe I'm just really, really baked, but
yeah, maybe. Hey, either way, but I'm sober and it still look cool to me. So
yeah, I like it. I like it. So, what is a Foster and the Pranksters live show like?
It's pretty dope, man. We've been getting like every show kind of is different. Because of the fact that we've been putting out material, we've been working new stuff. So our next show is going to have some acid test stuff thrown in there. More people are coming out every time we play. We kind of been like spacing the shows out a little bit. I know a lot of newer bands, they really get out and like gig like super hard, like do like 3-4 shows a month, and really try to like keep their calendar full. We've been spacing it out just to like give ourselves some time to focus and make each gig as strong as it can actually be. So we're going to be playing in Boonton, New Jersey in November 17th. And then we have another show in Teaneck at Debonair Music Hall, which is a spot that we played a few times before. And that's tentatively on the calendar for like December, might be like January. So right now we're kind of like I said, spacing it out, feeling it out, working in new material, and just trying to stay tight, just keep it as tight as possible and make it fun for everybody.
Awesome. Is there any plans for a East Coast tour maybe in 2019?
We are working on that, actually. We have a band that we play with a lot called The City Limit, and they're super dope. They're kind of like a indie pop blues garage kind of feel as well. But we're trying to kind of like team up with them because we've been playing a lot together, and a lot of our audiences seem to really enjoy each other. People will come out for us and say that, oh, I really like, The City Limit. I didn't expect to, I didn't expect to hear another great band, but that's been working out really well in our favor. So we're trying to like, strategize some things and figure out how we can make it realistically work and get us in, get into markets where we have a chance of actually like building a fan base, because for early on, you don't want to spread too thin and try to go out to like Montana or something and nobody knows you. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, oh, there's like two people here, that happen to be drinking at the bar. So, but yeah, we're definitely trying to get something going at least in the tri-state area by next year.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear it. All right, before I let you go, where can the listeners find out more about Foster and the Pranksters?
You can find us anywhere, pretty much. Facebook, Band of Pranksters, or you can search for us, Foster and the Pranksters. Google, bandofpranksters.com is our official website. That'll have all of our, official releases, videos, whatever you want. You can go on there. You can follow us at Band of Pranksters on Twitter. Actually, it's Band of Pranksters, no vowels, and PRNKSTRS. So that's like a little bit confusing. But if you just Google us, you'll pretty much, all of our stuff will pop up.
All right, deadly. I want to go ahead and thank you so much for taking this time to share the story of Foster and the Pranksters with me, man.
Hey, Colton, thank you, bro. I really appreciate it. Thank you for having us and for sharing your platform with us,
Once again, we have came to another close, so I want to take this quick moment to thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Desert Tiger Podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard today, I would be extremely thankful if you would hit the subscribe button or share this episode on any of your social media platforms. Hell, even tag me in it if you want to, and I'll give you a big old thumbs up. Alright, have yourselves a great week, you guys. We have another amazing episode coming at you next Thursday. So until then, whoop whoop!